What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode here on the Pool Focus Podcast. I'm your host, Quinn, and today's guest is an amazing photographer out of North Central West Virginia. He shoots just about a little bit of everything. I think mainly in the last couple of years, I've seen a lot more of lacrosse content and sport content. So we'll just kind of like dive into that. But without further ado, is Mr. Tyler Maxwell. Welcome to the pod.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Heck yeah. This is the second and third time that we've tried to schedule. If I'm not sick, you're sick. If we're not, like, we've just been bouncing around each other's schedules and stuff.
It's always something, man.
Yeah. I think the first time you even said, like, you had kidney stones, and I was like, dude, I've been down that road. Don't even worry about it. But it's just like, I don't know if anyone's watching or is listening. If you've ever had kidney stones, it's a big deal, you know, like it's not good. It's not fun at all.
No,
you know?
It is literally no joke. Yeah. I have gone this far in life and never had them before. And of course, I was literally taking one of my daughters to school, and I was driving back on the highway, and all of a sudden I felt like someone had hit me with a bat in the back of my side. And it was the most painful thing I have ever gone through before.
Oh.
And it was next level. In the pain regard. And I've honestly heard women say it's more painful for them than childbirth.
Oh.
So like I hear those two compared a lot, and it is no joke.
Yeah. I had mine in September, and I was driving to Glenville, and I was about the AMA exit, and I got hit, and I pulled over, and you can't do nothing. You can't get comfortable. You can't figure it out. So I just turned around, drove 20 minutes, and then I stumbled into, my wife was still getting ready, and she was like, what's going on? I was like, I got kidney stones, and I was like, just leave me alone. So I laid in the floor, and she just continued to put makeup on. She just knows, like, I've had them before, so she was just like, and then like probably 2 hours after that, everything was good, but the adrenaline that was running through, I was exhausted. I took like a 4-hour nap afterwards because it was just like your body is going through so much and stuff. So.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah. Enough medical history here and stuff. Let's talk about some actual history. If you want to go kind of like do a introduction, kind of talk about how you kind of got into photography, and we got a couple questions prepped and stuff too that I want to like run by you as well. But like let's just kind of jump right into like what kind of inspired you and started photography.
Yeah. So photography was not on my radar early on. I was always a drawing guy. In high school, middle school, when I was growing up, I would either draw or I would paint on things that I probably wasn't supposed to. And I just had this thing in me that I just wanted to create stuff. Mm-hmm. And it really didn't catch on into the photography circle until a good friend of mine, Matt Washington, invited me to go to, at the time, was the last Formula One race that was going to be held in the United States, and it was in Indianapolis. So we had this crazy week. We went to that race, and right before that, I went to Circuit City and just bought a Fuji camera. Mm-hmm. And I just started taking pictures. This was like a new thing for me. And while I was at that race, we were walking around everywhere. And in one of the practice sessions, I caught one of the cars kind of coming off a berm. And that car hit the berm, and the front end of the car came up off of the ground, and I caught it midair, like coming across. And I'm sitting there looking at this photo going, whoa, this is cool. And then the host of that trip, which was my friend Matt's girlfriend's father at the time, saw the photo, and he was like, I want to buy a copy of that from you. And I'm like, well, you just paid for my Formula One tickets. There's no way I'm letting you pay for the copy, but, oh, wait. I might be able to make something out of this. Mm-hmm. And then that transitioned into me shooting car shows. And then eventually, when I had my first son, I would just shoot baby pictures of him. So I'm a big car guy. And one of my first photos that kind of like started everything was a picture of him at Christmas time. He was just a baby, maybe a year old or something. He was dressed in this little Santa suit, holding some wrenches over top my toolbox. And all of my friends at the time that were also having children were like, we want something like this for our kids. Mm-hmm. And then it just has literally dominoed since then. I started doing families at that time. And then while I was doing that, I obviously had a full-time job. I worked for Sprint selling cell phones for about 10 years. And one of my coworkers at the time said, "Hey, I want you to shoot my wedding." And I'm like, whoa, that is a different animal entirely.
Yeah.
That is the biggest day of your life. I just shoot kids in the yard, man. Like, we put them in WVU stuff and put footballs, and we just, like, simple stuff.
Yeah.
What you're asking is a whole different level.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what to charge for that. Like, I'll just probably do it for free or like a couple $100. And he was like, well, let me pay you something, and we'll start this thing. So I ended up shooting his wedding. I booked 4 weddings just from shooting his wedding. Since then, I've probably averaged around 10 weddings per year for the last 10 or 12 years.
Yeah.
And that is not a big piece of my business.
Yeah.
It's honestly not my favorite thing to do.
Well, and I was also going to mention and stuff too. Like, I don't recognize you as a wedding photographer and stuff. I see.
Yep.
If you didn't tell me that, I would have never known. So I think it's kind of like interesting on how we, like, you know, put out our portfolio in a sense. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like what we really want people to do and stuff. But yeah. So I mean, sorry for cutting you off there. But I was just like, no,
not a lot of people know that I do that. Not a lot of people know I do seniors. My thing is, I just love to create, man.
Yeah.
Like, I find it very hard for myself mentally to get stuck in a niche. You did mention that I have a lot of lacrosse stuff. So kind of how I got there was when my son became old enough
Right.
to play sports, I would just take my camera and just take pictures of him and his team. Another local photographer, now Senator Ben Queen, kind of noticed those photos, and at the time he was running a pretty successful sports business.
Right.
He handles a lot of the North Central West Virginia action sports. He was at the time doing everything content-wise for Connect Bridgeport, Connect Clarksburg, a lot of Metro News stuff, newspaper stuff. And he said, "Hey, I'm trying to grow this team. I got 2 other guys shooting for me right now. There's more schools than that on Friday nights, and I want to cover all the football games in the area.
Right.
Would you be interested?" So I kind of jumped into that and started creating media content.
Yeah.
And it has just trickled since then.
Yeah. There's I was trying to think of who in this area that I've worked with on sports, and I haven't worked with very many, but a couple years ago I did shoot a couple of they're Dirty Birds now, but the Power Games and stuff. And that was a really cool experience because I met with I don't know if you know him, Chuck Roberts.
Yep.
He covers a lot of like the Charleston, just Kanawha County area, and super nice guy. He has a really nice setup and everything, but I was kind of telling him and showing him my work, and he was like, "Yeah, that you are like on a whole different kind of like level." So like, it's kind of like a good, because like I even told him the same thing. I was like, "You're shooting stuff that like I can do, but I don't want to like,
Right.
I just don't want to deal with it and stuff." And he's like, but we was both doing a Dirty Bird game at that time, and it was really cool just to kind of like see. I think it's fun when you're like working with another like creative and you see them, and it gets me excited when they capture something like really cool too. And then like, but some people, they're not like that. Like, you think you'd be like super excited and you want to show another person, and then some people they don't
Nope.
they're not very open to it. They immediately think it's kind of like stab in their face or something, like just a
Right.
but I'm just like, no, I want to share with you because I know that you understand how I did it. Like, it's so much different trying to show it to somebody that's never picked up a camera. But that's like, and like, it's when I'm watching like professional sports or if I'm watching like even college, I love when they're going out of bounds or on the sidelines or something like that, because I'm looking at all these photographers and stuff, and like I'll even say some nerdy stuff sometimes. Like, if they crash into it, I'll be like, "Oh no, that's a very expensive setup." And my wife is just like, "Would you just watch the actual game and stuff or something?" And we're just like, "No, I'm watching the sidelines because that's just really cool." Because some of those photographers, one photographer, really cool story. I always forget his name, but I'll put all of his info and stuff above. But during like 90 to 2000 and I think 11 or 12 is when he shot photos. Well, he shot photos of all the Spurs during that organization, and it all started with him writing a letter as he was getting his master's, and he was writing a letter, and he was trying to do his final like capstone project on sport journalism, and he just wrote a letter to the San Antonio Spurs and was like, this is who I am, I'm trying to do this, would you give me a shot? And back in the 90s, digital cameras was not a thing.
Right.
So they still had to do it. So he started and it ended kind of like in this whole digital era, but it started in film. And by the time he left, he shot like over 90% of all Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili,
Right.
Tony Parker. Almost every single photo that you saw was one of his.
That's awesome.
He went from one camera, and by the end, he had like 8 different camera setups that he was just doing by a button and stuff. It was insane. And I always think it's cool because he just pretty much just sent a letter and just shot a shot. He didn't know what was going to happen, and
Right.
the Spurs just kind of like gave it. I want to say his name's David, but I don't think that's right. But he's your typical photographer from the 90s. I feel like he had glasses, long white hair, and would wear jeans, and just like this
Right.
this photographer out there and stuff. But they gave by the time he retired just, I think it was like 5-6 years ago, and ESPN actually did like a little 30 for 30 on him. And but by the time he left, he had keys to the stadium. He had keys anywhere he wanted to. He worked his way up from an intern all the way up to he was like a creative director at one point. I was like, that is just mind blowing and stuff. But it's just like you never know what's gonna, like, an opportunity of who you shoot, or he just sent a letter and was like, yeah, can I just shoot a game once in a while? And
Right.
he was like, they looked at his work. He shot one game, and he's like, no, you're coming full time.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Like, really cool, really cool. I'll send that story to you too. 'Cause I
Yeah,
think
I'd
you'll
love to
like
read
it.
that for sure. Yeah.
I always tell the story, but I forget that guy's name all the time. But I just think it's so cool to know that, because the Spurs went on that huge run, you know.
What an era to shoot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, and he shot so many Hall of Famers, because I think he came in the second or third year that Davis Robinson was there. So he was shooting that Hall of Famer. Then he was shooting Tim Duncan. Then he was shooting. Oh, it was crazy. And then I think when he retired is when I think LaMarcus Aldridge was his last year there. So I think it was that year. But it's so crazy. I'm getting all my years mixed up because COVID is just like 2 years of like sports is kind of like weird. Like the whole.
Everything is weird.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true.
Yeah, life has been an absolute roller coaster. Including the lacrosse stuff. So I've shot everything under the sun. As far as sports related, I've shot Pirates games, WVU games, Steelers games, Marshall games, all of that stuff at some point. And then I'm at Christmas dinner. We go to Florida every other year to visit my wife's grandparents. And her family are mostly from New York. And her cousin actually owns a lacrosse club based out of Long Island, and we're sitting around at this dinner, and he's like, hey, by the way, all of these clubs that I'm competing against are all bringing photo video guys to these tournaments that we're in. Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask you, since family connection, like, are you interested in doing this for us? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to drive to New York every week to
Yeah.
shoot practice and to shoot this stuff.
Unless you're getting.
Right.
Yeah.
So it basically started at that conversation, and I was like, listen, if you want to give me the biggest tournaments that you're doing, I'll come and shoot some of those, and we could talk about what that looks like. Obviously, I'd want a day rate, and then plus lodging and a food accommodation, and like anything that's it's going to cost me, I'll come do it as long as we can work through that. And last summer, I worked every weekend in June, July, and August in another state shooting lacrosse.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of lacrosse.
But think about the opportunity, though.
Right.
And, like, just how many eyes saw your stuff.
Sure.
And so, I mean.
Two of those photos very specifically were nationally printed in the biggest lacrosse magazine in the country.
Awesome.
And it was just because, so like his team is not a normal team. His team is a top 10 team in the country in various age groups.
Yeah.
So his club consists of a team for boys and girls of every age from 6th grade to senior year. So there's 6-7 teams in each boy and girl, plus every year, it's a whole mountain of things.
Right.
Plus, he's grown it into a thing to now where he has his own tournament. So I don't know if you saw my stories this year. That is something that I'm going to continue to do, is cover his actual tournament that he owns every year. And this year we had 140 college scouts there. So these teams all are recruited. They're all highly recognized. One team actually won the national championship of club lacrosse last year. The team that just graduated, I want to say there's like 22 kids on the team or something. I really know very little about lacrosse other than being in this space. There's like 22 kids on the team, and 17 of them went on full rides to D1 colleges.
Wow.
And I'm not talking like little D1 colleges. We're talking Duke, North Carolina, Yale, Stanford, like the gamut, Notre Dame, like big stuff. These kids are incredibly talented. Their parents dump money into it because they know that he's taking them to the best tournaments in the nation, and they're getting scouts looking at them, and they actually have an opportunity. And me being there, shooting reels for them, shooting photos for them is only more exposure.
Yeah.
And it's like this whole animal that I never had any idea about until he brought me into this circle. And now I'm like, whoa, this is cool.
I know. And I think the only, because I noticed a lot on your Instagram and stuff where you're just like posting, but like I saw him and I was like, yeah, this dude, I don't know the atmosphere, like the extent of lacrosse that I knew is when I worked at AB. They're lacrosse, like just shooting lacrosse for like just content for the school and stuff, basically. And so I do know when I was shooting that, it is probably it's very fun to shoot.
It's a blast.
Yeah, there's what's the best way to put it? It's like the action kind of never stopped in a sense, you know what I mean? There's some sports, and it's not like a hate to the sport, but there's like certain sports that I don't like to shoot.
Sure.
Because I feel like you get the same shot all the time. Volleyball is one of them.
Volleyball. Baseball's pretty tough.
Baseball is tough, but there's a couple Kansas City photographers. Forget their names. I'm terrible with names. But I will put some of their stuff on the screen and everything as well. They kind of like inspired me more on baseball because couple Kansas City Royals, and then I think he shoots for Minnesota now, but he shoots he loves harsh light, and he'll do some crazy shadow work. And when you see something like that, you're like, oh, baseball's kind of
right,
you can do it and stuff. It's kind of cool. But like volleyball's really tough. I will say track, cross country, you don't have a focal point with a ball, so you're just like, you really have to be very creative when you're negative space and like really kind of like, you know, get involved in it and stuff. I would say football's pretty interesting because it does change a lot. I like basketball just because I'm a basketball fan, so like I know what's going on in the sport, so like I know how to like anticipate what they're about to do. But yeah, lacrosse was fun. It was surprising to me, I think, just because of how I didn't know anything about it, and it's very similar to basketball in a sense. Like they do pick and rolls, they do, you know, all that stuff. And I'm just like, oh, okay. So once you kind of see it and stuff, I had one guy. He was actually he went to AB, but we went and we did our masters through WU, and he played on France's national team.
Okay.
I don't know what age group, but he played. I think he might still play with them, but he was goalie for them and stuff for a while. So
I would not want that gig.
Yeah,
that's not the one.
He's always I know. It's like I would want that in anything and stuff. I think hockey would be pretty hard to shoot.
Same.
I don't know how.
Kind of sucks.
Yeah,
because you have to shoot through the glass. There's really no pit, we'll call it. In most everything, professionally at least, you're really regulated to where you can stand. Like at the Pirates, you have one box, and that is it. That's the only place you can shoot from. WVU is a little more free because you can
football.
Yeah, football or basketball a little bit. Basketball has been my only weird experience, really. And I know you mentioned like you like to watch the photographers. So I did have a guy fall on me because you have to sit underneath the squares,
like underneath
the basket. And they very strictly tell you, like, you probably shouldn't be editing while you're down there.
Yeah.
But I'm always the guy that, like, I want to shoot, edit, get it up while the game's going so they can use the content out on the media cycle. And I'm out there editing, and I barely see this guy coming. I'm like, and he falls right in my lap. And we're talking like a 6'5", 275 guy, and I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I shot W basketball one time, and that's when they played Glenville as the exposition. Okay. So that's back when they had Juwan and who else did they have?
We got Juwan, we got Deuce McBride.
Nah, it was before. Deuce.
Before him.
Yeah, it was. I think it was like Juwan's. Well. Gosh, what year was that? See, that's another thing too. Is like, man, they all blur together.
Oh yeah.
It was 26. No, shoot, 20. I think it was my junior or senior. So 2014 or 15, something like that. I don't know. So whoever, I'm sure there's going to be Mountaineer fans that will.
Yeah, roast us. Yeah. We should know these things.
Yeah. As a West Virginian, you should know I'm just like, okay. But no, it was really cool. But that was an exposition game. So they kind of like, they obviously beat Glenville.
A little bit.
But it was really cool just to kind of have that media pass. And
yeah.
I was shooting for Glenville, but I was just like, I think I shot more W than anything and stuff because I was like, why not and stuff. But that was the cool part, and then I shot for the like power games 2 or 3 times. So that's been the extent of. I wanted to shoot, but I wasn't full time. I was still working for tourism at the time when the throwback tournament was down here.
Oh yeah,
dude, I wanted to do that so bad, but I was like, ain't no way I'm gonna be able to like say that. Call off work. I don't know. It's just
right.
I just couldn't do it. But yeah, because like Jamel was playing, Jamel Morris, and he used to go to Glenville, but then went to Fairmont. But he plays for like the West Virginia, but now he's from Ohio, so now he played for the Ohio team, and they just won it all.
Right.
He actually hit a go-ahead 3 at the very end to like kind of seal the deal for it. So, but pretty cool experience that. But yeah, I think, and it's so interesting because like I live on the street that's right across from Laley Field too. So like I've lived down here for 5 years and haven't even moseyed on over there, So, and they do they have the state track there as well, and there's a whole bunch of opportunity. But I'm just like just haven't got a chance. But I was thinking about other days it would be so cool to do like a YouTube series of doing, especially here in West Virginia, if you shot like behind the scenes. On the sideline for every Mountain East football team. I just think that was really cool because then you can kind of like see perspective on how every like field is and how it shoots and stuff like that. But every Saturday I almost have like a wedding or something.
Yeah, man.
So it's just like in the fall there's so much stuff going on.
Sports is a different kind of thing. It's very comparable to weddings because you're either shooting a weekend or you're probably not unless it's basketball or something like that. But if you're talking football, it's literally every Friday and Saturday.
Yeah. I was thinking to myself, I was like, I just can't do it. But if it was, I need to look at some of the schedules and see if there's any like Thursday night games or something like that, because that's something that I could definitely do. But I just want to do some of that content. I just have an 85, so like I want to kind of get like artsy with it. I don't want to get like super. Use like a 70 to 200 or anything. I want to kind of like do more storytelling, documentary type of style to it, and see what that leads me. But yeah, I think talking about gear though is like, what is for I was going to say like for lacrosse and stuff, you kind of have to go with like a 70-200 just because you're so far as well, right?
Right. So I tried my first couple matches with a 70-200. I also have a 300-28 and a 400-28, and I ended up doing so much cropping using my 300 that I've only shot 400 for the last 2 seasons.
And that's with the Canon?
Yeah.
Okay.
My main body is R5, but
it's a great camera.
It just depends on what I'm shooting, really. So I have all kinds of bodies.
Yeah.
My main sports body is a 1DX Mark II, and then pair it with the 400, and it's a beast of a camera.
Yeah.
But when I'm considering lacrosse stuff, a lot of that stuff, it goes into flyers or some sort of graphic when they're trying to recruit these kids. So if the kid signs with somebody and commits, then they cut those photos out and they put them in like a digital image that they're doing. So I want to make sure and get some of that stuff at a higher resolution so they can crop it out. So I usually do use the R5. But when I'm talking about shooting a tournament, I'm shooting 10, 12 games a day. So I'm shooting between 10 and 15,000 photos a day. And with the R5, so I shoot in 1 terabyte cards, and sometimes I'm filling those up.
Wow.
So I shot 1.3 million photos last year.
Yeah.
I fill up a 5 terabyte HDD every other month, and it is such a problem to data management in my world.
Yeah.
And those tournaments, they kill me on data. So I try to use that 1DX if I know that the photos aren't going to go someplace and need to be that work. But otherwise, I have to use the R5. So it's like this whole game of like, what are these photos going to be used for? I need a very specific reason so I know whether I need to use this equipment or this equipment.
Right. That's incredible. You said 1.2?
Yeah.
And that was just this year?
That was just last year, yeah.
Last year. Wow.
Yeah.
And that's just absolutely. I actually was thinking about this other day. I was trying to think of, it was just a weird thought when you're just driving and you're just in that mindset. But I was like, I wonder how many photos I have taken since I have picked up a camera to now,
Right.
It's like you don't know what the actual number, but I was driving and I was just thinking, I was like, yeah, I wonder what that is and stuff. But it's like, it might be like because feel like I get trigger happy. So like in a wedding, I'm shooting like maybe 4,000 or 5,000.
Right.
And I feel like once I sit down, that's a lot. But like even a small session, I did a session last night. I shot 700 during golden hour, and we went through 3 outfits and those very basic poses. And I was just thinking to myself, gosh, I don't know if I need to like start like training myself to like kind of, okay, I got it and move on, or I don't know. Like sometimes if the light's hitting, I want to shoot as much as I can. If it's not, I try to like push it out and stuff, but I'm still averaging like 700-800 on a small. We was only out there, I think, an hour and a half, not even 2 hours for sure. And I was just thinking, I was like, gee whiz.
It's a lot of photos.
And so, but it was still fun and it still gives me content and stuff. But at the same time, I'm just like, that's a lot. And
right.
stuff.
Right.
Okay. So you talked about like shooting a couple months and nothing but lacrosse. Did you find yourself like going through like creative blocks even when you're like shooting those? Or since you had like a certain like job for it, you was like, okay, I'm here. I got to shoot them. I know I'm looking for it. I'm moving on. But like, did that like hurt anything like if you was working on anything else through like creative? You
Absolutely.
know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I go through a lot of creative blocks because typically a week for me is shooting about 5 days a week. Like it's constant, and I'm so blessed to be able to do that. So I struggle a lot with that. I struggle a lot with trying to figure out like, what's next? How do I make this look different than somebody else did it? How do I like find inspiration to make this the best that I can make it when I don't want to shoot anymore? I shot 20,000 photos last weekend, and I'm like, I'm burnt out, man. Like I don't know where to get that. So usually I end up finding myself doom scrolling and looking at other people's content that have done a similar thing, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of the direction I want to go, but I got to make it my own. So I just have naturally just kind of fought through that, but it's not easy. Like even bouncing it off other creatives, like I'm just like, this is tough. Like, what are you doing? Like, what got you through this moment? Because you were also in that spot. And it's just been networking, and I'm a big firm believer of community over competition. Like that can't exist in our world. We find ourselves so alone most of the time doing this thing. And if we build ourselves into a niche and we're the only ones doing that, like we can't even really bounce it off. So now I'm reaching out to other people that do it in a different space and saying like, how did you get through this? Or like, what were your thoughts and what are you doing to overcome that? So I find myself doing a lot of that, and then trying to figure out personal projects that I really want to do myself to kind of break up the monotony. Like just things like if I want to go, I've gone a couple times recently and still unsuccessful. One thing I really want to do is shoot bald eagle in nature in West Virginia, and maybe like trying to catch a fish or like something unrealistic to just go out and try to get.
Right.
But I've gone and sat at Stonewall Jackson Lake a couple times with my 1.4 extender and my 400, and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, I'm going to get this bird, and nothing.
Yeah.
And then a couple days or weeks later, I see somebody shooting, and they post it on Facebook, and they're like, "Yeah, I saw a whole flock of bald eagles," and
Yeah.
I'm like, "You got to be kidding me!"
Yeah. I've only went down that route one time, and I got a shot, and it was with my whole photography career. It was with the worst camera that I've ever owned, and it was just a pure luck thing. It was right on the Calhoun and Glenville border, and it was July 4th weekend. That was kind of like the only cool part, but it was a bald eagle, and there was it was right after a thunderstorm, and he was like drying out his wings, and he was just kind of like standing, and I pulled out the camera, and I think it was a kit lens, and it was so compressed, and I looked back at it, and I'm just like, man, I'm glad I shot it, and I pulled over, and I was able to like do it, but I was like, I could do it so much better now,
Right.
and stuff, and I think that's what frustrates me. There's a lot of, I love wildlife photographers, but I don't want to shoot wildlife here, if that makes sense, because
Tough, yeah.
there's not, unless you do like certain, like you have to have time and the patience and stuff for it and stuff. Like I want to shoot in Yellowstone
Right.
so bad.
Yeah.
Like that
Yeah.
is a bucket list item for me. I want to take 2 weeks out there and just shoot every single day. And there's this guy that I follow on YouTube. His name's Matt, and he goes to the University of Montana, which is like an hour and a half away from Yellowstone on one of the corners, and he's like, yeah, I'm just going to take a quick trip down here to grab this content. Blah blah. I was like, dude, your quick trip is
Where do you find time for that?
to Yellowstone too, and he's getting wolves and moose. He's like, I had some time this weekend, and he's really nice and he's a great storyteller. But I'm just thinking, man, you have no idea how lucky you are and stuff to just like, and maybe he does, he does, but like, I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna go outside and I'm either gonna take a picture of a raccoon, a dead deer, or maybe a skunk if I'm lucky, you know, and that I'm hoping that they're gonna be alive and not gonna be roadkill, you know, like
Right.
like you might see a bear, but you have to be like a little bit up higher in the mountains. You might be able to see a buck, but around here everybody kills them before they're even big enough to like take a photo of,
Yeah.
you know. So it's just like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a little bit of negative Nancy on it and stuff too. But it's like,
No, what you're talking about is
yeah.
absolutely real.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
Like you're right. Like I hardly ever see big bucks because people get them as soon as they're out.
yeah,
And I see friends that hunt in Ohio a lot, and they're talking about these monster bucks, and I'm like, that would be cool to photograph.
Yeah.
But we don't have that, so I
Yeah.
got to go there and do it.
yeah.
So no, and I've thought several times about going to the mountains and trying to get a bear and that whole thing, and my friends are all like, yeah, good luck.
Yeah, yeah, and well, it's very interesting because there's a lot of like photography as a whole. It kind of plays into the whole environmental side of things because what photography does is showcase it visually of what people don't see in these areas.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And it happens in news sources and like that's why I love National Geographic. At one point, when I was like in 4th grade, they asked you what you wanted to be. I was like, I want to be a photographer for National Geographic, and those photographers are putting out this raw emotion. Actually, it's not even it's what life is. It's not like edited. It's not performed in any way. It's literally what you see, and then people just think, oh yeah, polar bears are up there and ice are melting. No, it's like the ice is melting and they're swimming across oceans because they don't have no habitat left.
Right.
And they're just, I mean, there was one photo, a whole video, and I'll send you a link to this too, but I'll put it on top of this. One of amazing photographs. It actually won a couple awards last year, and it was a polar bear sleeping in this giant purple flower bed, and it looks like AI. It looks like something that should not be naturally occurring because you have
Right.
a polar bear in a bed of flowers taking a nap.
I think I've seen that
Yeah,
actually. Yeah.
yeah. Is they did it behind the scenes, and the photographer did it. He actually works for National Geographic. He spent 2 weeks trying to get this shot, and he's out there, and they used a drone, and it's just right above, and absolutely beautiful, and then at the same time, absolutely sad and
Sure.
powerful, and you're just like, no wonder this is the message. And people are looking at the comments, they're like, oh, this is the most beautiful photo ever. I was like, no, it's not. If that polar bear was in taking a nap on ice and snow, then yes, it's beautiful. But you have to realize why it is, and that's why he kind of like wanted to really like enforce and stuff. But it's just a very interesting time that we see things, and we don't have no idea like what the world is like
Nope.
happening around us, and I think that's photography is a way to connect with it. You got
Yeah.
whether it's politics, whether it's like environmental and stuff like that, like what's really cool is like we can take a photo and it can be seen across the world within seconds. You
Yep.
know,
We have this really gifted thing that we've landed on here with photography about how we can tell stories and how we can showcase not only Appalachia, but that's one of my biggest things is I want to show our state and our area and our region in a bigger, better view than everybody thinks.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with the polar bear. Like somebody has to tell that story or nobody's going to know about it.
Yeah.
And we're gifted with that ability to try and tell stories and try to get the word out about what's happening here, what's happening there. And we have to be able to be good stewards of that.
Yeah.
And it's just such a powerful tool since social media came along, and we take it for granted sometimes. Like we just think, oh, we're going to go out and have fun because we're photographers, but we also have to think we have a responsibility.
Right.
Like we need to tell this story the appropriate way. We need to have people understand like we have an issue here or we have a gift here. Like let's promote it or let's tell the story and show it off.
Yeah.
So
I have an amazing idea about how to showcase that. And I think it would be well received just because of the culture of West Virginia. But I want to do a whole entire YouTube series of traveling to every single county and taking one photo and then kind of like talking about like my, not like perspective of it, but just like what led me to get this photo.
Mm-hmm.
So like bigger counties obviously would be a little bit harder because there's so much going on, but like smaller counties from where I'm from, which is Calhoun County,
right.
There's not very much. So like you kind of do a deep dive of trying to figure out like, okay, what is a good representation at this time? Is it a building, is it a person, is it an event? Like there's so many things. Like if you pick like Morgantown, like up in that area and stuff, do you pick a W game or do you pick the university as a whole? There's a
Right.
and I think it would spark, I don't want to say controversy, I'm hoping it would spark healthy debate of like pride within their home. It's
Right.
like, no, like you need to check out this place because this is the reason why like it should be representation. Like, and I want people to be like kind of really proud of like, we say West Virginia, but it's like Northern West Virginia and Southern West Virginia are two different cultures,
It's
and
wild.
you go past Flatwoods and it's just, it's a whole different, and then even from Flatwoods to like Charleston, you get past like Charleston area and then you continue to go down. That can be a whole different area and stuff. There's so much that is involved in this state that people really don't realize that. I think as a whole, as like a nation, people is like, oh, West Virginia and stuff. But it's like, there's so much that there's people here in the state hasn't even been to,
Right.
like, and haven't even experienced. And I talked about that on a couple of times of the fact that I don't even think I was like 17 or 18 before I went to Charleston for the first time. And that's because the school took me.
Sure.
So it's just like, imagine how I could like create a series of this documentary of, and maybe it doesn't need to be like a video on every single county, but like maybe like every 5 counties and then kind of like talk about it. and I don't want that to be rushed. I wouldn't be like, if I'm in that county, I kind of like snap a picture and move on. I want it to naturally occur, and then I want people to start be like, oh, I wonder where he's going to next, you know?
Right.
We have so much history here too, so it's just like,
So much, man.
why not embrace that and stuff? But
Yeah.
um,
I really should take more advantage of some of the opportunities that I have. One of my biggest clients is the West Virginia Municipal League. So they're made up of every city, town, and village in the entire state. And I have all these relationships with mayors and city council members
Yeah.
and city clerks and city attorneys and this whole thing. So I travel around the whole state with them and shoot events and workshops and different pieces. And through that, I've built relationships. And I was actually just talking to a friend the other night about I spent some time in Logan this year. This is my like third or fourth trip down to Logan, and just being so culturally different than where I'm from and building the relationship with them, I feel honored because they call me family down there. And I just, it's so awesome the power that this photography has given me to be able to travel and do some of these things. But I'm so preoccupied with what I'm doing at the time that I don't take the time to like sit and do exactly what you just said. Like, I want to take a memorable photo and tell this story. Instead, I was shooting, like this year, I shot the Freedom Festival for them. It was their 25th anniversary. When they first started, it was just a car show. It was just an afternoon. They had a band perform on a DOH donated trailer. Couple hours. Now, 25 years later, we have national acts there. It's a 5-day, 40,000 person festival for a week. And like on Friday night, Lone Star played. They're not huge now, but they're a big band. Big deal.
They're still, yeah.
And they just like the spirit of Logan was alive, and it was so cool to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And like I get to do other things like that, and I'm just like I'm so caught up in what I'm doing that
Right.
I need to just sit down and relax and like make a memorable moment out of it.
Yeah. I think that has happened to me only one time, and I've talked about it a couple times, but well, when it comes to like shooting an event and stuff, shot the UCI championship up at Snowshoe, and those type of people up there, they're fun.
Oh, man.
They're fun. Like, they're safe fun, if that makes sense. Like, as rowdy as they got, I still know that if something happened, 20 strangers would have your back for some reason. You know what I mean? It's a very interesting, like, culture up there. But they played, they had a band up there called Reverend Peyton's Big Damn Band. And I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but, like, they're just, like, when they play, you just want to party. And the woman that's in it and stuff, she plays like a washboard, and her final act, she lights it on fire. They just it's just fun, you know. And I got some really cool photos of that. I was able to meet some like Red Bull photographers there. Just like, you know, those guys talk about. There's so many parts of like, you know, the Olympics was just on, and they are covering these athletes, but I don't think people realize the media teams involved in. They are so much more athletes than some of these like average people. I could never do like, and what really surprised me is when UCI was up there, they had these Red Bull. Red Bull was up there. Mercedes-Benz was a big sponsor, so they was covering some stuff. And then I think it's Red Bull TV. Red Bull and Red Bull TV is like, even though they're the same, they're two separate ones.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was like these different ones, but they had these vests on, and this guy is carrying one of the live cameras, and then he had a Mark II on him as well. And it's just like, and he had these shorts on, and you could just see his calves. I was like, dude, this dude, you know this guy's, and because he'd be like, okay, he's like, oh, sorry. Boom, he's just gone. He's not, he don't care. And he just takes right down off the mountain, and then he comes right back up. He just got a headband on, got earpiece, and not out of breath. I go 20 feet down. I almost killed myself because I almost fell over a rock. I have one camera, and I have the strap on and everything, and I'm just like thinking to myself, I'm kind of glad I don't do that and stuff. Like physically, I just don't want to do it. But I was like, how long have you been doing? He's about 15 years. I've been just a little bit everywhere.
Right.
And I was like, do you love it? And he's like, well, a lot of it right now is just repetition. If I go too slow, I get like I hurt if I go slow.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just like, gee whiz.
Right.
Like that just. But I guess if you're doing it for so long, it's kind of like that's their exercise in a sense or whatever. I know like if I shoot a wedding the next day, I can barely get out of bed sometimes.
Right.
You know, and I'm sore because I'm like bending down, I'm doing stuff. But these guys was insane, and that was just that sport. Who knows what another sport would have been like? You know, like I mean, you got water sports. Like I can't swim, so I would never be a Red Bull photographer out there surfing. You know what I mean? Like I'll just be like, just standing on the beach, be like, "Hi guys," you know. But
Did you see those photos posted from the? I want to say it was from surfing for the Olympics.
was the guy that jumped up and he was like saluting, like he was like straight up?
I think it was maybe his photo.
Yeah.
Specifically, there was one guy who was underwater certified to be a diver.
Yeah.
And he was the only photographer that was given accreditation to be able to shoot said event, which I want to say is surfing.
Yeah.
He was the only one allowed to be in the water and shoot it.
I would probably have to be this guy because a lot of the other photos was definitely on the beach. This guy's photo, yeah, it had to be him.
Yeah.
Had to be.
And there was some awesome ones that people were swimming out to catch the break, and he was like underwater shooting them up.
So
Just
cool.
some wild work.
It's just it's beautiful. I love it. There's a Netflix series, I talk about this all the time, and it's called Tells by Light. And I don't know if they're still on or not, but definitely need to check them out. They do a lot of there's a lot of National Geographic. There's a couple of time photographers. There's a couple of photographers from Canon itself.
Okay.
But they go around, they do all types of stuff. And every single time I watch an episode, I've watched that series probably like 10 times
Right.
because every episode is just like, it inspires you. Just like, you want to go outside and just shoot a leaf or anything, you know, just like get involved with it. But no, I watched a lot of basketball for the Olympics because of just
Okay.
LeBron and stuff. And there's a couple photos that was just incredible, just absolutely cold and powerful. And a couple of those photos was actually really fun story. It was a French photographer. He literally started photography for like 2 weeks ago. Picked up the camera and
What?
and the one that's being used that he took is LeBron's profile pic right now.
That's awesome.
Imagine just like picking it up and he was like, yeah.
Right.
And I guess their credentials, like if you was French and stuff, you had to go through like less process and whatever and stuff, like being at home and stuff. And I was just thinking to myself, I was like, man, but you can't get jealous because you're just like, that could literally happen to anybody and
Yep.
stuff. And in today's world, you can pick up a camera and you can become viral.
Yep.
And there's so many people of the mentality of like, oh no, well I've been shooting for 15 years. It's my turn. I was like, no, you haven't put out anything good.
Right.
Simple as that. You got to give like people what was big, and the photo was amazing because it was Durant, Curry, and it was LeBron, and it was all kind of like in a huddle, and it was like it was the whole mentality is like these three players are probably never going to play again
Right,
together
together.
and stuff, and it's just like it was a historical photo in a sense, and yeah, LeBron has as his profile pic.
That's awesome.
And his how many people he has, like 90 million followers or something like that.
A bunch.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's just, I mean, kudos to him. I
Right.
think his
No, that's
name,
awesome.
I can't pronounce it, but I think it was like Marquette. I'm not even going to try it. It starts with an M. I know 100% it starts with an M. But yeah, that's just, I think when it comes to sports and stuff too, like there's been so many iconic photos that happens. I have a couple of my favorites, but what would be some of yours that you're just like, that you draw an inspiration from that you're just like, I want to make sure I kind of hit that?
I don't know, man. Honestly, I am kind of caught up in myself and trying to grow every year. And I obviously follow a lot of people and try to build some inspiration from stuff. But like I'm kind of in this zone to where I'm really not like chasing after an iconic image or anything like that. It's more about like I want to build something that stands out from everybody else.
Right.
That's not in the same space as everybody else. And right now, my oldest son is showing a lot of interest in what what I'm doing and what I'm building. So that's what I'm really chasing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm chasing a legacy. He's a junior this year, and he's planning on going to WVU.
That's crazy to
And
think
he-
too. Because like
yeah,
I've
man.
known you for a
Right.
while too, so it's kind of like, dang, it's just yeah.
But he wants to do the sports, adventure, and action media program.
Yeah.
We just got to get his work ethic there.
Yeah.
He
As every junior in high school and stuff,
Right.
it's just like
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he did work all summer as a lifeguard, which cool. But he also has shot photos for me. So one thing that I do is I cover Roar Sports flag football league. It's based in the Bridge, and they have 2 seasons, a spring season and a fall season every year. And I try to do all their team and individual photos, which I did on Saturday. You said you had a relaxing day.
Yeah.
My day started at 6:30 in the morning and ended
Yeah.
at 7 p.m. And I shot almost 400 kids all in one day.
Wow.
And then circle back to him. One of the things that allows me to do that league is I take action photos a couple days during the season so they can use them for promotion. And then I also try to parent sell them because a lot of parents do want photos of their kid in the action. So last season, he went out and shot 2 full days for me. So both 10-hour days. He shot 10,000 photos per day. Didn't edit a single one of them. Didn't get a paycheck either. So we're still learning.
Yeah.
He
yeah.
does have a passion for it, and he loves it. And he says, like, I want to start doing more stuff with you. I want to start going to more events with you and covering things. But we just got to get over that edge there.
Does he have an eye though?
Oh, yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
Yeah. So, and I think that's
Yeah.
so important. I've talked to so many people, and the photography, the tech side of it can be learned.
Sure.
But it's like if you really truly don't have an eye for a certain thing, or just know, like for me, I know for like when I'm doing like people, I like candid, but when I'm doing my portraits, I want it more of I don't want to say mysterious, that's not the right word, but like a very like subtle response, like a very subtle photo with my edit. Like I feel like it's more powerful than just a happy photo for a portrait,
Yep.
There's a couple, Lee Jeffries is I don't know if you've
Absolutely.
ever,
Yep.
one of the best portrait photographers I've ever followed, I think, and stuff. And he did a whole series when I was in college. It was all about people in Skid Row. And that was just like, when you see somebody that does portraits like that compared to somebody that just takes a photo,
Sure.
there's a huge gap of artistic like eye there and stuff. He sees things from like hands to like scars to like things, and he amplifies it so much that when you put it up on like a 10 by 10 print in a gallery, you see the whole history within just the hands. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible and stuff. But yeah, like having that eye
It's very important.
Yes, yeah. Especially, and if you're going to be working with clients, clients just wanting to make themselves unique anyway, and having that little extra eye of just like, bringing it to the table. I always use the term of like being a cookie cutter photographer. I don't want to ever catch myself in that. And I've caught myself a couple times. I'm just like, I need to reel it back. I need to do something. I need to do it. And then, some sessions I feel like you can get away with it, but like for the most part, those like you want to be different. I want people, when I post a photo, I want people to realize that is a Quentin Murphy photograph,
Absolutely.
original. I don't want people to be like, I think that might be so and so's and stuff, and be like, nope, that's Quentin's. And there's a couple of photographers in the state that does it, and I don't even have to. I'm scrolling, I know exactly, and I told him. One of them that was on the podcast before was Kevin Young. He does a lot of studio work and stuff down here, and when he posts something, I know exactly that he's the one that did it.
Yep.
He does certain things with strobes and lights that you just know. You just know that it's his stuff. I don't. It's just very, and like you've seen like a lot of other like people with stuff in studios and strobe work, but I don't know if the frequency or what he does or anything like that. But I told him, I was like, dude, you're doing it because your brand has already been recognized right there. You know what I mean? So really,
that's a lot of the battle.
yes,
a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So we kind of talked about how like the rise of just like viral moments of photography, like within like environmental or like sports and things like that. One of the big things we haven't talked very much about it on the channel and stuff is just like the use of AI. And I think in today's world, I mean, I use it almost in every photo shoot. You know, if you're taking, a spot out while you're editing or whatever, that's AI,
Right.
Even spell check is AI. Like, but a lot of people is just like, they get mad at ChatGPT, but I'm just like, spell check was the original AI,
Right.
it's literally, so what's your thoughts overall on, the future of photography with that? Because, it could, like you're talking about like a lot of college recruits and stuff like that, AI could, change their, I don't want to say reflection of their career or anything like that, but it could really change their different path based on, a photo that goes out that's not true. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Absolutely.
So, yeah. What's your like overall thoughts on that?
Man, it's scary.
Yeah.
It is scary,
Yeah.
powerful. It is scary, cool. It's a whole worm can
Yeah.
that people are just starting to open.
Yeah.
Not necessarily photography related, but we just produced a video for the Thrasher Group, which is a host sponsor at the biggest conference that I shoot every year. So included in that host sponsorship, they get basically a mini commercial. So they wanted to do it on the city of Ripley this year, based upon their 4th of July parade,
Right.
which is like the biggest 4th of July parade.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we were struggling with was who was going to do the voiceover. In history's past, like it's always been Woody Thrasher,
Yeah.
the face of Thrasher.
Yeah.
And we actually did it this year using AI with story blocks.
Yeah.
We just typed in the script. We came up with a neutral tone for it, and it generated in like 30 seconds. And people are like, man, who did the voiceover? It's so great. And I'm like, AI did it.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
So I don't know what is going to happen in the future, but you're exactly right. It could change so many things in so many directions for so many people. People in our industry, I think, are going to lose jobs because it is so easy to take a picture from Facebook now, crop out the kid's head and put it on another body and say, this kid was doing this amazing thing at this time, and it'd be completely fake. And most people to the naked eye will never be able to tell
Right.
that.
Yeah. Well, dude, Facebook is a whole different thing. I hate the audience on Facebook so much. Like,
Yeah.
they're the most gullible
Absolutely.
people I've ever met, and the crazy part about it is you think it'd be a certain age. It's not. It's everyone. It's literally that whole entire audience. And I only post on there if anyone looks at my stuff. I'm posting on my personal page barely anything. On my photography page, that's the only thing that I use it for and stuff, just for like clients and
Right.
portfolio work and stuff. But you'll go down into these groups or these like you'll see off and on based on your interests is like photography and stuff. It'll be like a scenic photo or whatever, and clearly it's AI. Is this you'll see like there was one of like I just saw a couple days ago. It was in Colorado, and there was a whole bunch of these crazy like cloud formations, and people was like, oh my gosh, like that is an incredible photo, blah blah.
Right.
And there were so many people that was in the comments that was like, it's AI, you idiot, like blah blah.
Sure.
And then a lot of it might be just engagement, and they're just trying to clickbait it and stuff too. But
Right.
there's a lot of them in there that really truly think that that's real. And then you got some people in there that's like screenshotting certain parts of it and trying to explain to him, look at the headlights. The headlights are not even there, dude, and stuff.
Right,
And it's like,
right.
and but yeah, it's just like AI does the best way to explain it is the way I can like notice it is the smoothness on certain things,
Yep.
and that's like a huge red flag. You see that and you can pretty much tell. It doesn't do a really good job with depth. It doesn't do a good job with a lot of AI doesn't do good with like fingers
No.
and like
Fingers, faces, eyes.
yeah,
A lot
yeah.
of that stuff is dead giveaways.
Yeah, there's some of them that are doing they all focus just on face, and then someone's focused. But I have a video on my YouTube channel where the generative fill first came out last year, and I was just like, it's mind blowing. I did 3 photos, and it was live reaction, and you see me there for like 10 seconds speechless because it was just like absolutely incredible. Some of the things that it does with like landscape and sceneries and stuff, especially in the depth of field, is perfect.
It's insane.
But then it was a beach photo, and it gives you 3 different options in it. Well, the first one was like perfect. Second one was optional. The third one, it decided that it wanted to create a whole different person.
Sure.
And it brought this ghost figure out. And you can actually see me in the video like, oh, well, obviously this isn't the one that you want, but like, look at this one. And, but it's I think for advertisers, for products, it's like gold for them.
Absolutely.
You can do so much for that, and
right.
Which is it kind of sucks because there's so much of the creative process that you see, like like maybe a bottle dropping into like paint or something like that. You see the creative process behind it. You're like, oh dang, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And stuff, and it goes
took
into
somebody a really long time to come up with that.
Yeah. And there's so many examples that you can pull from and stuff, but I think some of that will still remain the same, but I think a lot of it is just going to be pushed to be like, okay, no, take a bottle, put it into like water, add stuff, blah, 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 and then it's going to be done in a day, and it's going to be pushed out, and people's going to see it. But hopefully the brands that are recognizing it, they would like to be a little bit more true, and they don't want to do it.
Right.
But it's I think you kind of like hit it perfectly. It's scary. It's absolutely terrifying. I think I don't try to think about it too much because Facebook and Instagram put that stupid features like AI thing on it.
Now it says created with AI.
Yeah, and you can turn it off in your settings on Instagram and stuff, but it's almost like it tattles on you and stuff, and you're like, what the heck? But then there's some photos that's been posted that never been used with AI, and it's like recognizing it. I'm like, what the heck's going on here? This is like just a photo with like, unless it's like maybe recognizing the presets or.
I think that's part of it. I think Peter McKinnon posted a video or at least a post, something about how his Red Bull Eclipse photo was tagged using AI, and it was just barely edited, and it was actually a real photo. Yeah. But the software was like, no, this is AI.
Well, let me just say, if you surprise AI on how creative you are, then you're doing the right thing.
Sure.
That should be like a great pat on the back of like, I'm a great artist and stuff. And but
his video, I think, is about to come out about that whole process.
That's going to be interesting.
The bucket shot too.
Yeah. Do you like watching his stuff?
I do.
I have mixed feelings about him sometimes.
Some
of his topics, I'm just like, well, but some of his stuff is like right on, and I'm just like, makes sense.
I liked earlier Peter better than I like current Peter.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
Now we're a pirate.
Yeah.
Like we've transitioned from a teacher / creative to now we're a pirate. Yeah. Which is insane to me because like I definitely support. I got some shirts. I got some other Pete's Pirate Life things. Yeah. And like just a couple weeks ago, he had dice. He was selling a 2-pack of dice. Yeah. Very specific build pattern, very specific whatever, in this little pop-up case. 2 dice. Yeah. $700.
That's insane.
But that's what the brand he's built. Yeah. And they sold out in like 30 seconds. And he's doing great. Kudos, man. Kudos.
I love his backpack.
Absolutely. One of the best on the market, unquestionably.
I don't love it for $300 though.
Nope.
And it's just like I've been wanting an upgrade for the longest time, and I love it though. And I watched so many videos of like other creators too, and I'm just like, damn, it's really good, but I just don't want to put $300 into a backpack.
Yeah, now we're buying a Lamborghini or a Ferrari of a backpack because it says Peter McKinnon on it. But kudos to him, man.
Yeah,
I wish I could build something that did that.
He's doing it and stuff, and his work that he does too is absolutely incredible. There's Another YouTuber that I think that you would like, he is out of New Zealand and Australia, is Chris Jackson. Chris Jackson Photography. Very,
Not the Charleston
not the one. No, it's a whole different one. Yeah, I was going to say it's like just a basic name and stuff, but like his YouTube, he shoots a lot of film, and he shoots. He does a really good job of kind of like explaining the gear that he uses and stuff. But like when you shoot, like he made a really good point, because he's like, he grew up in New Zealand and shoots there in Australia. Like for us, we're looking at stuff like completely different. We're like, oh my gosh, like
Right.
never. But he's like, you gotta think like almost every single photo that I've done that's here is almost like the same. Other people, they love it because we're such a play. But he's like, creatively, I don't want to shoot here no more. I'm
tough.
done.
Yeah.
You know. So it's very interesting how we see like other like photographers. I mean, West Virginia as a whole, Appalachian as a whole, is beautiful, but unless you're in like certain parts of it, you only get greens and you only get browns.
Yep.
You get a little bit in between, but that's if we're gonna have a good fall. This
Sure.
year we're not gonna have a good fall.
No,
It's too dry.
It's too dry. Leaves are already turning.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna have a rough fall season.
Yeah. I've already had so many clients that are just like, oh, let's do a fall season. I was like, I'm telling you right now, it's not going to be what you think it is and stuff. And it's just going to be brown. And then we're probably going to get 4 to 5 days. And then that's if we don't get like a storm or the weather's and stuff, where it's going to be like orange, and then we're on blank, and then it's done.
Yeah, peak is gonna be so short.
Yeah.
So short.
I did enjoy a couple years ago when we had that super wet summer, and
Oh yeah.
dude, it was like mid-November and we still had leaves up, and it was just, that was one of the best falls I think I've experienced in like ever since I was a kid.
Yeah, I think 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's 2 years.
I was doing a tourism style video for the city of Elkins, so I spent a week and a half in Elkins, peak fall season. Some of the best footage that I've ever shot. It was incredible.
Yeah.
What a being in Randolph County and during that season was just awesome.
So do you do you play any video games or anything like that? Okay, I was going to ask because Call of Duty Black Ops 6 just came out, and it's about to come out in later this year, but they just released like where the big zombie map is actually going to be in West Virginia.
Get out.
So
That's awesome.
I'll play the trailer over top of this and stuff, but the trailer cracks me up because it's very obvious that Activision took the tourism like video, the drone footage, and they just rendered it into, I can probably find the exact drone shot. That's how crazy it is. But as soon as they did it, it's called Liberty Falls, but it's like more the fake town is in West Virginia.
Okay.
But it's pretty much Fayetteville.
I gotcha.
Is exactly where it's at and stuff. Fayetteville or like up near Seneca is what they're really trying to like play the mountains and stuff.
I
And
gotcha. Yeah.
but it's really cool because you see it. But on my side of things, I'm just like, oh, okay, like this is how they're like doing it. But I was going to talk a lot about like, photography is influenced in just in like video games and art direction and stuff too, and
Right.
stuff. But
Yeah, when I was growing up, I played all the time, and just as I've gotten older, like I'm working a lot right now.
Yeah.
Which is tough. I'm trying to expand my video side of business, and I got a guy, Justin Litton, who was previously
Yep.
with Mountain Craft,
Yep.
who's been helping me a lot with that and try to grow that piece. So it's just been like all business
Yeah.
for the last 3 or 4 years.
right.
And I have 4 kids and a wife that works part-time, and like if I don't make it, like we're in trouble. So I've really cut down on a lot of personal things like that, things that like just soaked up a bunch of my personal time because I would get so involved. Like if a game would drop, I would want to finish the whole game in just a couple days because like I was so addicted to it when I was
Right.
young.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So it's just something that I've had to break a habit of, which sucks because I really did enjoy it. And I know you play online still, or
Yeah,
Yeah?
I'm always on. COVID kind of like got me into gaming and stuff, but like because it's like as a photographer or just as a creative in general, winter is the hardest months to get through.
Sure, absolutely.
And I will be honest with you, I've went through a lot of periods of my life where winter was the worst depressing moments of my life, and now I'm excited for them because I have found a different way of creating content. One of the things I'm doing now is I create like graphic designs and thumbnails for like a side hustle for a lot of streamers and designers and things like that. $20 a pop, it adds up.
Sure.
And I've worked for some bigger content creators that now my name's starting to get like pretty big. I'm doing thumbnails for a YouTube channel for a tattoo shop in Dallas.
Awesome.
And I'm just like, it was because the video editor worked on me with another project that he does COD content with. So like he's very similar to you, man. Just family, just kind of doing a thing, but he does a lot of video editing.
Right.
And that's all he does. He doesn't do a lot of like filming himself, just editing. And that's his full-time job on that. And he was like, he knew that with me, I communicated well. It was pretty much, I would let him know. And then I was a lot different from these other kids that are in esports, like he was like, this guy's an actual adult that understands communication and stuff. He's like, so, what I mean? It's just like, I tell him, I was like, I can't do it, but if I got time, I'm gonna do it. I got you. And,
Sure.
But yeah, $20 a pop adds up. So I'm excited because now in the wintertime, I want to do content of, come with me as I design this thumbnail and do a screen recording. That's a YouTube. And then,
Sure.
But my brain is now giving me something creative to do that I'm working through it. And it's just
that's
like,
so awesome.
Yeah. It's just like, you're kind of like, I found a different avenue to like keep myself going. And that way I'm not like trying to figure out, I got to take a photo or something like that. And then looking at other people's content and stuff. But the whole goal is like now that I went full time, I want it. There's so much content that I haven't put out yet because I'm waiting on those rainy, cold days to put those out. That way I got stuff flowing and just trying to get a strategy with it, and, but yeah, gaming as a whole has helped a lot in the last couple of years. I will say, have you played Red Dead at all? Red Dead Redemption? Listen,
I really haven't played video games,
dude. If you want a beautiful,
so far behind.
cinematic, this is the only video game, and I'm not ashamed to say it, is that when I finished it, I was crying like a baby. The most emotional game, and anybody that plays Red Dead will understand why, because they've played the campaign all the way through. But dude, it is beautiful. It should have won Game of the Year, but I think that was the year that God of War, I think, won or something like that, which was, it was a good game. But Red Dead, yeah, it's just the story. It was shot. Their creative director is amazing and stuff. And they actually, what they did was they went out west, and before that in Rockstar Games, they was out there for like 2 months in Montana, just kind of living and just like in the cabins and just because it's all set, out west and everything. Sure. But like the research of it was like really cool, and they just wanted to like get the photography and the direction right, and dude, they killed it. But yeah, cried like a baby. My wife came in, she was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm just playing games, and I'm just like, it's so sad, but it was good. It was beautiful."
That's when you've really created something that has impacted somebody when you have fans getting that emotional about things.
Yeah, and that wasn't, dude, I didn't even play the first one. So like I didn't even know what the story was, but they told it so well in the second one, and it was so cinematically like powerful that the campaign, I was like, gee whiz, man. It felt like he was there. Like it was incredible. But yeah, so I feel like we've talked about so many things already. What's some of the, like, creators here in West Virginia that you kind of like, that you're inspired by? That I kind of like give this like time for like a shout out, or if you want to like, of course you don't have to mention anybody too. Like you can do whatever you want.
I mean, I follow so many people, man, and I'm inspired by everything that we're doing as Appalachians. Somebody I was going to mention that you should maybe connect with, or I can connect you with him to have on the show, is a guy named Thorny Lieberman. Have you heard that name?
I don't know, but that name is pretty badass from the beginning. So that's pretty cool.
He's like 80 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And he's been a professional photographer for like 60 some years.
Yeah.
And some of his most memorable things kind of go unnoticed by younger generation.
Yeah.
But so his biggest thing that a lot of people know him for are he created this coffee table book of the state capitol.
Oh, okay.
And it is the most sold like photography book in West Virginia or something like that. And he almost self-funded it all the way. And it's
Yeah.
just the restoration of the Capitol building from start to finish. And it is all film photography, I believe.
That's amazing.
It is incredible.
Yeah.
And I had heard his name for several years because he has work all over the state in different things. He was a big commercial guy. He was a big industrial design kind of guy who lived in New York for a period of time. But I met him 3 or 4 years ago at the Capitol Complex, and he was going into Senator McKinley's office to look and see if his picture of a coal miner was still there. So I followed him, and we got to talk for quite some time, and just an incredible inspiration to me after even just meeting him one time.
Wow.
So we get into this room. It's like McKinley's library, and there's this giant coal miner. And I'm like, all right, I got to know what's going on here.
Yeah.
And he said, I created a series of coal miner photos that are all life size, and they are all blended together by different, I don't even know how he termed this. So the photos are all shot on film, and they're all like 8x10 images stuck together in a collage that make one life-size image.
Wow.
And it is insane to look at. And I want to say there's like 10 coal miners or something that he did this with.
Yeah.
And he was telling me about how it was after an accident that he decided that he was going to go do this and show off coal miner life and bring awareness to coal miners and this whole thing. And he had done that with Native Americans out in the West before this, and was trying to raise money to help them with land fights and all the stuff that they were doing. And one special thing that I got to do was he had never had a picture taken with any of his artwork before.
Cool.
So I like kind of posed them and sat him to where I could use the light, and I took a photo with him beside one of these coal miners. And we have kind of talked back and forth. And actually, I was just talking to him the other day. I posted something on Facebook looking for an old car, and he responded to that and said, I know where one's at, but it's down here. So we're looking for it up in north central West Virginia for a project. And he's just a wealth of knowledge.
Oh.
And just like from what he started doing until now, and the history in between, and like the things he's shot and seen, wild, man, wild.
See, and for me, that's like the perfect guest. Like,
absolutely.
That when I started this whole project, that's the type of, I want to hear about that. You know, I want to hear about the generational type of photography and creatives that has, you know, done everything from, you know, storytelling to commercial to, you know, but it's so neat to how the way the world works. And then he just like met you, and then as another photographer, you're able to document this next piece of his legacy. You know what I mean? It's so cool.
It's cool, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
So guys like him, guys like you, I've been following for a while.
Appreciate that.
Dude, I love what we're doing here. Community.
Yeah.
It's so important to what we do, because during the winter months, we find ourselves alone a lot. Mm-hmm. And we need to be able to talk to others and, what are you doing today? Let's go grab coffee. Yeah. Let's sit down and have a conversation. Like, we have to be open about those things, or it's not good. Like, it has to happen.
Yeah, I think for as guys too, it's very hard to find other. There's just not a lot of us that are. There's not a lot of us that's doing it either full time,
right,
or mature enough as a whole to realize that, hey, you're not out to get me. You know, like, let's just have a conversation. Let's just create. And whether it's guy or women and stuff, there's just like the mentality of thinking that one of my mentors from college, he asked me the other day, he was like, do you think you're giving away like a little bit too much? And I was like, not really. Like, I'm confident in my work. If someone else is not confident in theirs, that's a damn problem, not a me
Sure.
problem. And it makes me sound cocky or maybe like arrogant and stuff, but it's like I don't care about like someone else's life in that sense. It's none of my business. So I'm
Right.
just like, okay, we just move on from it if they don't want to be part of it. And I've had a couple photographers that I've reached out to that I respect their work, but they just kind of like politely told me they don't want to do it and stuff.
Sure.
I'm like, okay, cool, no problem. I just kind of like move on. But you know, I'm not going to stop following them. I'm not going to stop, you know,
Yeah.
they're doing great work. So
Absolutely.
therefore you just support them, and they're from West Virginia. And it's just like, it's a different, I think that people look at it as like, oh no, he's just like, it's all about him. But it's like, no, I mean, I'm not getting paid. This is not a paid thing. I mean, I'm doing a trade with another photographer just for the space, you know, like
Right.
I'm taking out a Monday of my time all the time. So it's just like, and I'm editing, I'm doing this, you know, so,
Sure.
but I want to put that onto a platform where people can be like, oh, I never knew that he was up in this area, and
Right.
he does this, and it just links, and it all it takes is one video. It takes one piece of content for people to find people. You
Yeah,
know? And
absolutely.
just trying to connect it,
Right.
and move on and stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah. So do you have any like advice for maybe like people that are going to maybe like the field that you shoot, like maybe like sport photographers or anything like that? Any?
Sports is tough, man.
Yeah.
Sports is one of the most physically demanding things that you can do, and also time demanding, and it's very specific because sports always happen at the same times. But if you're doing sports, in my personal opinion, it's very hard to make a living doing it. You have to really like grind for so long before you can get enough clients that make sense for you to be full time. And that's also not just financially, but like it's a big piece to making this thing work. And it's very difficult to be financially sound in sports realm, and that's why I find myself doing so many other things. Like, I mean, my video business is pretty much all commercial related slash tourism style stuff. Like, I really want to show off our region. Like, that's a passion, so that's where I'm headed. And to be a sports photographer, there's a lot of things that you have to think about that a lot of people don't know. Like, you can't just walk onto a sideline and shoot games. Like, you have to contact an athletic director. You should get a media pass from the WVSSAC. You can't parent sell unless you've been approved by the AD. You can't parent sell if it is a WVSSAC event like a regional or a championship. All of that stuff is contracted through one body, and they're the only ones allowed to do it, just like WVU. A lot of people don't understand, like, you can't use WVU photos that have the flying WV unless your name is Dale Sparks. He's the only licensed photographer to sell anything West Virginia photography related.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all of the photos that you see in Office Spaces or whatever that is Steve Slayton, Pat White, any of those guys, Dale Sparks took them all.
Yeah.
He's the only one. And if you get caught selling one of those, it could be up to $25,000 per image that you have sold. And it trickles down into the state level stuff. I learned all of this when I was shooting the state basketball tournament. I did that, I don't know how many years, with Ben Queen and through Metro News.
Right.
And all these parents would see me with my camera when I'm going into the facility, and they'd be like, where can we find these photos? Da, 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 da. And I would just hand out business cards.
Yeah.
And then I later found out, whoa, you're not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Like, these photos that you're taking can only be used for media, and that's it.
Yeah. And explain that to a parent, it's like talking to a brick wall. You know, like they want to go be like, well, this is my kid. You know, like but it's just like, yeah, but your kid is representing an entity within a different public area. You know, it's a whole different
Yep.
thing and stuff. We dealt with that just working in higher education. We had so many people that would just moms and that would come down and try to like just shoot photos on the sidelines, and I'm just like, who are you? You
Sure.
know, and I would knew our student workers and I would know us, but I try to tell them, especially when I worked at AB, I was like, you guys need to have media passes and stuff. You need to create a
Yeah.
system of, because there's so much of things that goes, and I'd rather be prepared than like just you can't ask for forgiveness on a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? And it's
Nope.
like that's like one of them is just like just create it like a small media pass and just have that way our bus is covered here.
Sure.
If the conference wants to do something else, well, that's within the conference and stuff.
Absolutely.
Like Marshall got a lot of heat I think last year of an FPV drone.
Yep.
From the Sunbelt Conference and stuff.
You can't fly over people.
No,
like that's
tough.
not cool.
Yeah.
And you can't fly over a stadium, especially like
Well,
that.
not an intern flying it too. Like it's
Right.
different if you get like, Parker Shepard doing it, where he's
Sure.
licensed and he has a very thick contract on FPV drones and stuff, especially
Right.
dealing with people. But I was like, yeah. And so the conference didn't know anything about it. So when it posted, and then it kind of sucked because that was like one of their best viewed
Yep.
clips.
Absolutely.
He was like, you got either pull it down or you got to pay us right now.
Yeah.
And obviously I don't know what they did, but I think the video is still up. So, but what a rock and a hard place on it and stuff. But that's just pure, in my mindset, misdirection within that university. That university should have known that an intern should. I don't know who.
Right.
Maybe no one knew about it. Like I just don't know. But
Yeah.
it's just
There's so many moving entities in that stuff. Because,
And-
I mean, when you're talking any collegiate sports, there's usually a whole intern team that are doing
Yeah.
everything behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Because they only have one paid guy, and everybody else is working for basically free.
yeah.
And you sometimes just give them the direction, like, we don't know what you want to do today, but go create stuff.
Yeah.
And like that may have been a personal decision by that intern. And they're like, I want to do a drone today.
Yeah.
And
But that, I feel like if you're down that, you
should know.
should know. And it wasn't even a bad video. It was really good, but I'm just like, I remember seeing that and I'm just like, I'm so glad I'm not Marshall right now and
Right,
stuff, because
right.
I was, at that point, I was working at Glenville as director of marketing.
Okay.
So that was just like, take that heat off us on something that we probably didn't do and stuff. But,
Right.
yeah, I was just, there's a lot that goes into it. People just don't have no idea. And then there's such a gray area with like the NIL stuff and like
Oh, yeah.
just images and, and higher ed as a general. And I worked at Glenville for about 9 months, and I told myself I would only work back into higher ed after I left AB if I worked at Glenville or D1.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to Glenville, and I realized that maybe I'm just done with higher ed. To be fair, if I do go back, I'm going to the absolute top. I'm not
Sure.
I'm not wanting to work in the bottom of like, if I got handed a job to work at like Clemson as a director of photography or something like that, then yes. But
Right.
I'm not doing anything under the
Below
sun.
that,
Yeah, or just it has to be like a D1 that I know the content is going to be flowing and I'm going to have kind of like the say into
Sure.
certain things and stuff. But higher ed is just
It's a whole other animal, man.
it is, and it's like high school is one thing, and then it's like higher ed is a whole different. There's some things that they allow compared to like in high school they don't,
Sure.
and it's just sometimes it's conference based, sometimes it's tournament based. It gets pretty crazy.
It's a whole set of liabilities in there, like
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of people don't think about.
And depending on the sport too.
Right,
And
absolutely.
it's just there's some things that you just can't post due to the fact that like the evolution of the like game. I think about volleyball, for instance.
Yeah.
And volleyball, they have these young women in spandex, and then sometimes you're going to get a photo that is not flattering and stuff, and then people don't realize that, oh, that's a great action photo, but it's not,
Right,
and it
right.
might show something, and it's like if you post that, you're posting this young woman in front of everybody to be critiqued on a different thing. And it's like you have to be mindful of these little details and
All
have
of
a good attention to detail, especially working with high schoolers,
100%.
And there's a lot of people in our world just like, nope, this content, just push it. And I was like, no, we're not
Right.
doing that. And it happens a lot and stuff. But
Yeah, like one of my toughest things that I do is definitely volleyball. So I do a lot of stuff that revolves around the Bridgeport complex
Right.
in my area.
yeah,
So they have their own in-house travel volleyball team, the Mountain State Storm, and I shoot their photos since they were created.
yeah,
And these girls, they all want these poses that are definitely borderline like a 13-year-old should not be
Right.
doing that.
yeah,
So I have to consciously say, like, I know that you want that, but like, you don't want that.
yeah.
Like, if these photos ever get out, like, you don't want that. You don't
Yeah.
want that representation of yourself. I don't want to be the one that's producing the
Yes.
content. Like,
Yeah.
I give them a sheet. So all the sports that I shoot, team and individual stuff for, I give them like 10 poses that are pre-approved by me, that me and the coaches have talked about. Like, these ones are all good.
Yeah.
I know you want to create your own thing and you have these ideas and you want to get your friends involved and it's like this whole production and I want to make that fun, but we got to like stay within this realm.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some of them that they'll appreciate it when
Absolutely.
it comes down to it. And then some of them, they just don't give two shits, and to be completely honest. But we dealt with that with so much, like especially when I worked at AEB, there was just there would be guys that would want to wear, like, you can have like a creative shoot, but you also have to do a headshot that doesn't look
Absolutely.
like crap, because you have to use that headshot as a visual reminder for the conference and everything, and it's going to be represented, and people would want to wear like sunglasses or like chains and stuff like that. I'm just like, dude, I was like, no, chains off, glasses off, look at me, this is headshot, and,
Right.
and some of them, like I said, would like, they'd appreciate it, and then some would just be like, oh, man, like
This is me.
yeah. I was like, I don't care, I have a job, I'm gonna do it and stuff. So I deal with that with weddings a lot, with like people want to wear sunglasses all the time.
Right.
And I'm like, no.
The grooms always want that
Yeah,
sunglass
yeah.
photo. They want to look.
I was like, we can do that, but with this one, when the bride's involved, absolutely not. We're stuff. So advice for a lot was just probably be prepared and
Go about it the right way. If you want to start in the sports realm, like, just start. Start shooting a sibling. Start shooting a friend's kid. Start shooting somebody that you're close to that you can get practice. Anybody just starting photography, not even in sports, like, that's my number one thing. Like, a lot of people are always like, well, so how do I get started in this? And I say, shoot.
yeah,
Like, that's the only way to really start doing this.
right,
And I'm a perfect example. Like, I didn't charge for the first several years of me starting to create things because I wasn't confident in what I was doing. I was learning,
Yeah.
but I was shooting as much as I could, working full time and shooting and trying to build it until my business was big enough to sustain it.
right,
And that is a marathon. It is not a quick sprint. I mean, I'm on year 16 of taking photos, and this is my second try at being full time. I went full time about 10 years ago, and then had some personal things come up, and I had to go back to working a 9 to 5 because it wasn't sustainable at that
Yeah.
time. Like, I would go a couple good months, and I'd be like, cool, we're good. And then something would hit, and I would go a couple months, and I wouldn't have any work. And it was just about trying to figure that out. And now I got to a spot to where I have 3 or 4 really good repeat clients every year that I know are going to bring me X amount of money. And I've been able to build my brand on top of that. And now I have things that happen every season. The sports thing, it's very predictable. I'm going to do X amount of things during basketball season. I'm going to do X amount of things during soccer season. I'm going to do X amount of things in the fall because this is the busiest time for everything. And now I just have to focus on what am I going to fill my summer with and what am I going to fill December through February, March, April with.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
So it's just about like being patient, setting goals, chasing what you're actually trying to do. Don't get overwhelmed by the gear. I started out with a fixed lens Fuji, and now I have $100,000 worth of gear. But that wasn't overnight.
Right.
It's been 16 years of a journey, and now those are not toys to me anymore. They're my tools.
Right.
And I spent that much money because now I'm at this place to where I'm sitting on a sideline at a football game and a media person is wanting those photos now. So I have a fast computer, I have a fast camera, I
Yeah.
have fast cards because I'm moving. As soon as like I'm taking those photos, I'm dumping that card and I'm uploading them and they have them so they can post a gallery as soon as that game is over. Or like it takes so much data with my cameras, like to move that to my computer now, what used to take forever
Right.
has now shortened my workload because I bought a nicer computer. And like I always started with stuff from the pawn shop. A good friend of mine owns a pawn shop, and he would say, "Hey, I got a new MacBook in. It's a little better than the last one that I sold you. Are you interested in it?" And it would be $200, $300, $400, $500, and I would go get it, and it would last me 6 to 8 months before it totally died. But that's how I started.
Right.
Like that's the journey.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. It's lonely. It's a lot of hours. I'm still putting in 60 hours a week, every week, and trying to figure out when to put the family time in there and when to do the other things. It's just tough.
Right.
But once you get to a certain level, it's so rewarding, man. Like I get to go to all my kids' stuff because like I can see we have a soccer game on this day, we have a baseball game on this day, so don't plan anything those days.
Yeah.
Don't schedule a shoot those days. Like I get to go and I enjoy those times where I can spend with my kids and I can go on vacations when I want and that whole thing because my schedule is so flexible because I've worked so hard to get to this place.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like I appreciate it so much more because I did everything wrong and I did everything because I thought I knew everything in the beginning. And it was just so easy now that I can look in retrospect and say, you should have just shot all the time. Like, don't worry about the money and don't worry about upsetting people and don't worry about pleasing every single person. Like, create what you want to create, shoot what you want to shoot, and like chase the thing that you really want. Like for me, it's just I was not very good at working a 9 to 5. I was not very good at listening to somebody tell me what to do. And that's just my personality. Like I'm much more of a leader and much more of a person that like I set a goal for myself to make X amount of money and I'm going to do it in 3 years. And I set a goal. I set those goals in place and I said, this is what I need to do. I need to send out 5 emails every day. I need to comment on this many people's Instagram accounts. I need to send messages to these other photographers that are doing something in a similar space and saying, what are you doing to be successful in that space, and learning every day. And that has what brought me to where I am. And without all of those friends in my corner and all of those other people that I talk to, I'd still be at day one.
Yeah.
But it is literally just about doing it. And that is the toughest piece that people overcomplicate.
Yeah. I think for me, quitting, because I was okay at level. It wasn't like I was in an issue or anything like that, but I was just, I was commuting from Charleston to Glenville every day. And when you can drive an hour and a half every single day, and then drive an hour and a half back, you have a lot to think about.
A lot.
And creatively, you're just looking at it and just like, I just want to be full time. I said I want to be full time for like before COVID. Like even when I was working at AB, I wanted to be full time. And I was like, what's stopping me now? I had gear. I had enough kind of clientele, and I knew I had enough annual leave that I would be good for the first 2 months. I knew that. And then I was like, after that, I don't know what. But like I was telling you before we was recording, it's like I'm already through like almost 7 months now, and I feel okay. But I'm about to get into a super busy time, and then it's gonna be dead for like 3 months. So like
Right.
I gotta figure this out and like trying to figure out content. And I think I have a good goal, good plans for it and stuff like that. But when I had to do that, I felt like half of the world would look at me and was like, "Oh, well, you don't have a job.
Sure.
You're not successful if you don't have benefits and all this other stuff." And to be completely honest, I thought that was going to be like my parents, because my parents is always they've been in a generation, they've always had a job. They've always My dad worked 21 years at Simonton Windows, 5 days a week, just nonstop, and just so we could
Right. Sure.
live, And so it's like, but I told them, and they was very supportive, and it was kind of interesting to see how that played off. I had people that I thought would be supportive that hasn't really reached out at all, and then I had people that I never would have thought, and I got close to, from like either high school or college, at people that are just like, no, we've been watching you for a while. We're so glad that you've done this, because we know that you're going to like
Kill it,
do
man.
stuff. I have one guy. So a lot of my content is, some of it's like implied or risque or whatever and stuff, but like I'll do the behind the scenes stuff. And one of my best friends from college, he has three little girls, and he says, "Is the girls naked in this? Because we want to watch the YouTube video and support you, but we just want to make sure it's good." And I was like, no, they're good. This is just like, he was like, okay. He's like, I know that sounds crazy. I was like, no, man, it's perfectly fine.
Right.
Like, and stuff. I was like, just thank you for even doing it. He's like, no, we watch you all the time in the living room and stuff. And they love listening to the podcast and love to do it. And it's neat because just because you don't see it or hear it, there is people that's out there that's listening. I had one bride, I just saw her wedding, and we did her engagement photo, and she was like, "Oh yeah, the podcast." And I was like, "You listen to the podcast?" Because I was like, didn't even think of it. And she was like, "Yeah, I've listened to every episode. It's awesome." I was like, didn't even think this would happen,
Right, man.
So it's just kind of like, it's a good thing to know that there is people out there that knows you.
Right.
I always talking about like support versus congratulations, and everybody wants to congratulate you, but almost no one wants to
Support you.
And I'm just like,
Yeah.
it's very interesting how this world is and stuff. And I'm just like, no, support them, and then the congratulations is going to come.
Sure,
And
sure.
it's just like, but the support, I was like, I mean,
This is when we need it the most.
yes, yeah. I put on my birthday post. I don't know if you saw that, but I was just like, listen, I turned 31 this year. You can tell me happy birthday, you do whatever. But what would really be amazing? Go to my YouTube and subscribe.
Yep.
Because that's what I'm trying to like focus on. And I think I gained like, that post had like 200 some likes, 70, 80 comments telling me happy birthday. I only got 50 subscribers. So I'm just like, okay, well, I know
How hard is it to press that share button?
yeah, and I was like, some of you didn't even read the very first
No.
sentence. And I was just like, I still appreciate everybody that told me happy birthday. Don't
Sure.
get me wrong.
No.
But it's just like, it didn't cost a single thing. And then some people, they did it, and then some people texted me and said, I'm going to do both. Said happy birthday, and I'm going to subscribe, and I'm going to comment on a video and stuff. I was like, thank you, because that is what truly, that's supporting me. That's right there, is knowing and stuff. And there was people that I did not even think was going to do it, and they did it. And then there's some people that I was just like,
Right.
I know if they did or not and stuff, because it's
There's such this weird world that only people like us can appreciate, like when we're building something. And like friends that I have had my entire life, and they know what I do. They know how much of a struggle this is, and they still say, "Have you got a real job yet?"
yeah.
And I'm like, "Trust me, what I'm doing
Yeah.
is a real thing."
Yeah, well, they can't do it. So
Right.
why would you say that is not real and stuff? Like, it just, I think one of the things is so frustrating. It's like, I don't care if someone uses another photographer or anything
Sure.
like that, but I was like, just ask, just be like, hey, I want to do this because I understand like my style may not be for everybody, and that's totally okay. But it's like as a friend, as a family member, or anything like that, just be like, hey, like, Q, do you mind if I do this, or what's your opinion about it and stuff? And I'm gonna give you like my good opinion on their work and stuff to see, because that's creative and everything. But like, there's some people that just didn't even do it. I was like, I know that this is my full-time job
Sure.
now, and the point is like I may even been booked,
Right.
but it's just like you just still.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know.
I did
And
just
so,
have a case recently. Somebody got engaged, a good friend of mine, and he was like, I think I want you like in the wedding,
Yeah,
but I don't want you to shoot it for sure.
Yeah.
Like, can you give me your top 10?
yeah,
You were number 1, by the way.
yeah. I
And
appreciate that. So.
I'm like, dude, thank you for asking. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
it makes a difference, doesn't it? Like, it's just like,
Yeah.
and I don't get upset about that and stuff. I'm just like, that is like the extra step is like, I know you, like when it gets down and dark and dirty and stuff, I know you're going to be the one that just.
Yep, you're going to be there in my corner.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's wild how many
It's-
people that you can pinpoint after you've gone through so much things, like just trying to grow, and you're like, man, I really thought that person would
Yeah.
support me, but they
Yeah.
didn't at all. And
Yeah.
that's so weird.
Yeah.
But you can then build your circle around those kind of people. Like, like I would love to support them, but like they didn't. Like I saw them from the sideline, like not helping at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's crazy. Like it's a whole different perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. But Tyler, dude, this has been, I feel like we could literally talk here for another 2 hours.
Easily.
This has been great. This has been a long time coming.
Yeah, man.
It's the first time actually meeting in person.
Yeah.
So it's
way,
just like,
way overdue.
so it's really cool to do that. But, yeah, so guys, if you are watching, all of his information is going to be located in the description below. Make sure you give him a follow, check out his work, and if you're in the North Central area and you are doing any sports or lacrosse or high school or whatever,
I do it all, man. I shoot a lot of real estate, a lot of commercial
Yeah.
stuff for small businesses,
Yeah.
all of it.
Yeah, so he might be your guy, so definitely check out his stuff. As always, this podcast is sponsored by Megan Nicole Photography. This is the studio that is filmed in. She shoots everything from like mommy and me sessions, family sessions, boudoir, maternity, a little bit of everything. So make sure you go to her website. You can book this studio at any time if it's available. Just go onto her website and check it out. Tyler, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for the chat. And if you guys haven't already, please like and subscribe. We are located on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. So make sure you give all those a follow, and you can listen on any one of those platforms. So
Check it out. It's
Yeah.
a great show. Thanks
Yeah.
for having me, man.
yeah, we're trying. Never stop creating, and we'll see you in the next.